Verona Road runs west out of Bad Axe, Michigan, straight through flat sugar beet country toward nothing in particular. No shoulder. No streetlights for 4 miles. In October, the fields are cut to stubble, and you can see the whole horizon at once, which makes the dark feel bigger than it is. On the night of October 12, 2001, a 22-year-old woman was walking east along that road, about 1.5 miles from town. A vehicle came up behind her. It did not slow down. It did not stop. What it left behind fit in the palm of one hand. 3 curved pieces of amber plastic, the lens off a right front parking light, recovered from the folds of her clothing. A steel retaining clip from a headlamp assembly found 40 feet up the ditch line. Those pieces went into a paper bag, the bag into a box, and the box onto a shelf in the Huron County Evidence Room, where it stayed 23 years. In February of 2024, a retired Michigan State Trooper named Leonard Kasperzak sat at his kitchen table in Harbor Beach with a binder of photocopies nobody had objected to giving him. Sanilac County arrest logs, autumn 2001. He was 68, not a detective with no authority of any kind, going through a neighboring county's paperwork because of one line he had typed himself as a rookie and been told did not matter. On page 9 was a booking photograph of a man he had never heard of. Kasperzak stopped and took his glasses off and put them back on. Her name was Dawn Reinhart, 22. She waited tables at a diner on Huron Avenue in Bad Axe. She was 2 credits short of a degree in dental hygiene, and on the night of October 12th, her Ford Escort died in the diner lot with a dead alternator. So she started walking. 1.5 miles. She had done it before. Tonight, a witness statement that was correct and useless at the same time. A man who died in his own driveway still suspected of it. A $200 salvage receipt, and a Polaroid stapled to a carbon copy in a barn office outside Ubly. Bad Axe holds about 3,000 people at the crossing of M53 and M142, dead center in the thumb. In 2001, the Sheriff's Department ran 14 road deputies for 1,200 square miles. Understand the geometry, because it is the whole case. 3 counties with lines people cross 40 times a week without noticing, and paper that never crosses them at all. Dawn had worked the diner 4 years since she was 18. She knew the farmers who came in at 5:40 in the morning by their orders instead of their names. She kept her tips in a coffee can with a slot cut in the lid. $610 in it when she died, saved toward the last 2 classes. Her mother, Arlene, lived 9 miles north in Kinde. She clocked out at 10:50 on a Friday night. 41 degrees. She had a canvas satchel with her apron and a textbook in it, and she was wearing a dark green quilted jacket that her mother would later identify from a photograph of one sleeve. The first cars that Saturday morning saw nothing because she was down in the grass at the bottom of the ditch, 11 feet off the pavement, and it was not light yet. A man hauling a beet trailer found her at 6:50 in the morning because his headlights caught something white and he was tired enough to look twice. The medical examiner put the primary impact at the back of the left hip, strike height 24 inches off the ground. She was walking with the traffic, facing away. She never saw it. That is the one mercy in the file, and the family has never been able to make it feel like one. The state police assisted. Among the troopers sent to canvas gas stations was a 25-year-old 3 months out of the academy, in a uniform his mother had pressed, named Leonard Kasperzak. 9 miles north of the scene, at a station on M53 outside Kinde, he got the only real witness statement the case ever produced. He typed it himself that night, 2-fingered, handed it up the chain, and went back to writing speeding tickets. The clerk was Bonnie Lefebvre, 38, working alone until midnight. She remembered the customer without being prompted, and gave Kasperzak 6 things about him, all of which turned out to be true. He came in about 20 past 11. He bought cigarettes and paid cash from his front pocket. He did not want the receipt. His hands shook so badly he dropped the change. He kept his head turned away from her, toward the door. And he had a cut over his right eyebrow that was still bleeding, held shut with a folded square of paper towel. She asked him if he was all right. He said he caught it on a cupboard door. She said he told her that before she finished the question. Kasprzak wrote it exactly as she said it. Fresh cut over right eye, actively bleeding, held with paper towel, subject stated cupboard door. Then he wrote the time, 23:20, and his best guess at the vehicle. Dark green four-door sedan. Older. Domestic. 9 miles from the scene. 38 minutes after dawn, Reinhart clocked out. A man with a fresh facial injury paying cash and refusing a receipt. It should have been the end of the investigation. The reason it wasn't has nothing to do with anyone being lazy. It has to do with the difference between a wound and a scar. The lead investigator was Detective Margaret Dubois of the Huron County Sheriff's Office. 49, 21 years in, the first woman to make detective in that department and aware of how little margin that gave her. She did not dismiss the gas station statement. She built her case around it and put out a bulletin across 3 counties for a white male, 20 to 35, with a fresh cut above the right eye. Here is the trap, and it closed in about 4 days. A cut is temporary. By the time the bulletin went out, it had a scab. By the end of the month, it was a pink line. Within a year, it was a scar so faint you would only find it if you knew to look. You cannot canvass for a wound. It heals while you're still typing. There was no database of injuries. No facial scar field on any form in Michigan in 2001. No way to search the one thing that made him identifiable, because it had a shelf life of about 3 weeks. So Du Bois went after the car. Dark green four-door sedan, older, domestic. Deputies ran it and came back with about 900 registered vehicles across 3 counties. It was, as one of them put it in a memo, the same as saying the car was a car. Then somebody at a bar in Ubly said a name. Arlo Pensky. Pensky was 29. He worked seasonally on a bean farm. He drank. He had 2 drunk driving convictions. He drove a dark green 1992 Buick, and he could not say where he was that night because he genuinely did not remember. He also had damage to the front right corner of his car. Du Bois interviewed him 4 times. He came in every time on his own, without a lawyer, and told the same story badly. The local paper ran his name in the 3rd paragraph. It never used the word suspect. It did not have to. The damage was from a deer on M46 outside Marlette 6 weeks before Dawn Reinhart died. There was a body shop receipt for $280 in a drawer the whole time. Nobody asked for 11 days, and by then, the rumor had left the county. He was never charged. He was never cleared either, not in any way that mattered, because nobody holds a press conference to announce that a man they never charged did not do it. He lost the farm work. His truck was keyed twice. Somebody left a note under his wiper that his sister found and would not describe. He moved outside Deckerville and stopped going into Ubly. Arlo Pensky died of a heart attack in his own driveway in March of 2019. He was 47. 9 people came to the funeral. He was still, on the day he died, the man some people in Huron County thought had killed that girl on Verona Road. He never heard the name Curtis DeWald. That is not a loose end. That is damage the case did. It is permanent, and no arrest in 2024 undoes an hour of it. Kasprzak asked about his statement twice. He was a rookie from a different agency asking a county detective about her homicide, and both times he got the same answer, which was not unkind and was not wrong. The cut healed. We can't look for it. He said later that he understood it completely, and it never sat right for 23 years, and both of those were true at once the whole time. Kasprzak retired in 2019 after 31 years. His wife died in 2022. He had a house in Harbour Beach 80 yards off Lake Huron, a workshop, and a boat he did not use. In January of 2024, the Huron County Cold Case Unit, meaning one detective at 60% time, posted a notice that the Reinhart file was under review. Kasperzak read it in the paper. He did not have a theory. He had one narrow obsession. The cut was fresh at 11:20 at night, which meant that for a short window afterward, days, not years, it was still a scab. Still something a photograph would record without anybody meaning to. So he stopped asking who had a scar. In the 2 weeks after October 12th, 2001, who took pictures of men's faces in the Michigan Thumb and kept them? The answer is booking. Every county jail in Michigan photographs everybody it processes for anything and keeps it. Drunk driving, suspended license, a shoving match outside a bar. Huron County had been through its own booking photos in 2001. That was the first thing Dubois did. But the Thumb is 3 counties, and the paper did not move between them. Sanilac County's photographs from October of 2001 had never been looked at by anybody on the Reinhart case. Not because they were hidden. Because asking meant driving to Sandusky and going through boxes by hand. Kasperzak was 68 and retired and had nothing but time. Page 9 of the Sanilac County log. October 18th, 2001. Curtis Allen DeWald, 24, of Cass City. Driving on a suspended license M53 south of Deckerville. Released that day on a $100 bond. In the photograph, above his right eyebrow, there is a horizontal cut about an inch long. It is scabbed over and dark, with yellow-green bruising fading out around it. 6 days old? Exactly 6 days old. And Kasperzak, at his kitchen table at 4 in the morning with a photocopy in his hand, understood the thing it had taken 23 years to be able to understand. The cut was never a way to find him. It was a way to date him. Be honest about what Kasperzak had. A man photographed 6 days after the crash in the next county with a healing injury in the exact place a witness described a fresh one. That is a lead. That is not proof. Faces are not evidence. A jury cannot convict on the shape of a scab. What made the case was the second page of that arrest sheet. The vehicle. Because when a Michigan deputy stops you for driving on a suspended license, he writes down what you were driving and the number stamped into the frame of it. 1995 Chevrolet Lumina. 4-door. Dark green. Kasperzak said the worst thing about the case is that the answer was the useless description. He wrote it himself in 2001. It was the reason the case died, and it was also, letter for letter, correct. 900 cars in 3 counties. He had just been handed the identification number of one of them. He called the Huron County detective on a Tuesday. He said, "I have a VIN and a booking photo, and I know neither one is a case. Give me 2 weeks and I will bring you a chain." They ran the vehicle history and it stopped almost immediately. That Lumina was never repaired, never insured through a claim, never transferred to another driver. 11 days after Dawn Reinhart died, it was sold for scrap. Not traded, not junked at a crusher in Saginaw where the paper disappears into a corporate archive and dies. Sold for $200, signed over on a state title assignment to a family salvage yard on a dirt road outside Ubly. Which is the luckiest fact in this file. A corporation shreds its paper after 7 years. A 71-year-old man in a barn office does not throw anything away, ever, on principle. Schultz Auto Salvage has been on that road since 1961. Delmar Schultz, 71, runs it the way his father did. 40 acres of vehicles in rows, a barn, and an office with a wood stove, and 4 decades of carbon copy invoices in boxes on shelves he built himself. When 2 detectives and a retired trooper came up the drive in March of 2024 and asked whether he could find paperwork from 2001, Schultz said it would depend how fast they wanted it. It took him 40 minutes. October 23rd, 2001. Vehicle intake sheet, carbon copy. 95 Lumina, 4-door green. VIN written longhand in ballpoint. $200 cash. Seller's signature, Curtis A. DeWald. And in the condition box, in his father's handwriting, the line that turned a lead into a case. Right front lamp assembly gone. Hood and right front fender creased. Gone. Already gone on arrival, 11 days after the crash. The right front lamp was not broken at the yard. It was missing before the car got there. And Schultz's father, who photographed intakes because he had been burned once in a dispute over damage, had stapled a Polaroid to the sheet. Nobody looked at it in 2001. It was a picture of a scrap car in a folder about a $200 transaction. There are 3 things in that Polaroid. The right front parking light housing, empty. The bumper impact height, measurable against the wheel rim at 24 inches. The height the medical examiner recorded on Dawn Reinhart's left hip. And caught in the crease of the fender, about the size of a thumbnail, a torn piece of dark green quilted fabric. That fender was cut up and sold as scrap steel in 2003. The Polaroid is the only place that fabric has existed for 21 years. A defense attorney can attack a photograph. So the last piece is the most ordinary thing in the episode. A car that goes to a salvage yard does not vanish. It gets sold in pieces, and every piece goes on an invoice with the donor vehicle on it. Schultz went through 19 boxes and found 4 sales off that VIN. 3 were small. Interior trim, a wheel, a starter. The 4th, in June of 2002, was a hood and a left front lamp assembly, sold for $60 to a man in Sebberwang named Wayne Trombley, who had the same car in a different color and a deer of his own. Trombley is 58. He still has it in a pole barn behind his house, unregistered since 2009, under a tarp. On the front of Wayne Trombley's car is a hood and a left headlamp in a slightly wrong shade of green. Both came off the vehicle that killed Dawn Reinhart, and there is a carbon copy invoice in a box in Ubly with the donor VIN on it that says so. That is the difference between a story and a case. The paper trail is not a theory about where the car went. You can drive to Sebberwang and put your hand on the parts. One problem left, and it is the reason 23 years passed. Curtis Allen DeWald of Cass City does not exist. No Michigan license under that name after 2004. No employer filings. No registration. No death certificate. A file in 2001 would have called that flight. It was a form. In 2004, Curtis DeWald married and petitioned the Sanilac County Circuit Court to take his wife's family name, Manning. Granted in 6 weeks for a filing fee. A legal name change in Michigan is a public act. The petition is a public record indexed by both names in the courthouse in Sandusky. And by statute, notice has to be published in a newspaper of general circulation before it can be granted. So, in the spring of 2004, in the legal notices column of the Sandusky Tribune, between a foreclosure and a township drain assessment in agate type, this was printed for anybody in the thumb to read. Curtis Allen DeWald intends to be known as Kurt Allen Manning. The one document connecting the name on that salvage receipt to the man living in Tuscola County was not hidden or destroyed or buried. It was published in the newspaper, legally on purpose because the law required it. Then it sat in a courthouse index for 20 years, waiting for one person to type in the right last name. Kurt Manning is 47. He has lived outside Cass City for 20 years, 9 miles from where he was born. He does drywall and light framing. He coached youth baseball 4 seasons. 2 grown daughters. 1 speeding ticket since 2006. He was never hiding. He never left. He stopped being the man whose name was on the receipt. Kasprzak was not there for the arrest. He asked. They said no, correctly, and he sat in a car 2 blocks off M53 in Cass City on the morning of the 8th of May and waited for a phone call. Before that morning, the State Crime Lab pulled the paper bag from the Huron County evidence room. 3 amber lens fragments, 1 steel retaining clip. 23 years in a box, dry and dark, in the best condition anything in this story is in. The fragments matched the right front park and turn lamp of a 1995 to 97 Chevrolet Lumina. 2 of the 3 carried part of the molded date code, July 1995, which is the month the car on Curtis DeWald's arrest sheet was built. The chain, in order. A lens dated to a model year. An arrest 6 days after the crash with a VIN on the sheet and a healing cut in the photograph. A salvage intake 11 days after signed, recording the right front lamp already gone, with a Polaroid of the damage and the fabric. An invoice trail to parts you can still touch in Sebawang. A published court notice tying the name to the man. No confession required. Which matters because there wasn't one. Kurt Manning was interviewed for 6 hours and 40 minutes. He was polite. He said he did not remember owning a Lumina. Shown the intake sheet with his signature, he said that was a long time ago. Shown the Polaroid, he asked whether he needed a lawyer, and he has said nothing since. He was charged in Huron County with failure to stop at the scene of an accident resulting in death. He is out on bond, pleaded not guilty, and as of this recording, there is no trial date. Arlene Reinhart is 68. She still lives in Kinde, 9 miles from the gas station where the man who hit her daughter bought cigarettes 38 minutes later. She was told in May of 2024 in her kitchen by a detective and a retired trooper she had met once in 2001. The first thing she asked was not about Manning. She asked whether it was true about the Penske boy and whether anybody was going to say so out loud. Here is what this case is actually about, and it is not a scar. Every piece of evidence against Kurt Manning existed in 2001. The lens was in the box. The arrest sheet was in Sandusky. The salvage receipt and the Polaroid were in a barn office outside Ubly. Bonnie Lefebvre's statement was in the file, accurate, typed on a state form by a 25-year-old. Nothing new was discovered. 4 counties' worth of paper simply never sat on the same desk at the same time. Bonnie Lefebvre is 61 and lives in Port Austin. When a detective read her own 2001 statement back to her, she corrected 1 word and got everything else right. She said she thought about that man every October for 23 years and assumed she had remembered him wrong, because if she had remembered him right, somebody would have found him. She remembered him right. Nobody ever told her. Dawn Reinhart is buried in Bad Axe, 2.5 miles from the ditch. She was 22, 2 classes short, with $610 in a coffee can. Arlo Penske is buried outside Deckerville. In June of 2024, the Huron County Sheriff's Office issued a statement saying his name had never been anything but a rumor. His sister was quoted in the paper. She said it was 5 years late, and she was going to put it on the stone anyway. Leonard Kasperzak is 69 now. He has not been thanked in any official document. He is a private citizen who read a newspaper notice and asked a neighboring county for photocopies, and nobody had a reason to say no. Asked what he would say to the rookie who typed that statement, he said he would tell him to write down the time, get the spelling right, and understand that it might take until he is an old man. Fresh cut over right eye. Held with paper towel. 23-20 hours? He got all of it right the first time. It only took 23 years for somebody to be able to use it. Case file number 5. The Michigan Thumb, 23 years, 6 days, and $200. If a case in your county has been sitting in a box, tell us where to look. Case files are opened in the order you ask for them.